Do you ever abandon drawings halfway through because for some reason you're not happy with how it's looking? If you do, it's easy to somehow feel that this session has been a waste of time, a failure, a discouragement in some way. Let me suggest 6 ways you can use this drawing for the further positive development of your drawing journey that are a whole lot better than throwing it to one side or in the bin. The first thing in some ways covers all the others, and that's to realize that what I now have is a learning opportunity, because I have things I can do now with this drawing that I wouldn't have done otherwise. I have things that I can do with this drawing that in some way can improve my overall drawing development. So while it's fair enough that we feel disappointed with something we've seen in our mind in some way and have gone to create that it hasn't worked out, it's not as if the time we've spent so far is a waste or can't be used further. And so as part of realizing this is a learning opportunity, I think we need to look at our drawing and work out, why am I not happy with it? Have I made a mistake? Have I botched up the hatching? Have I got the scale wrong? Why is it that I want to abandon it? And it may be very obvious, or it may not be that obvious that it comes to mind immediately. And we may need to have a little look and say, look, well, why isn't this working for me? Because whatever the answer or the answers are, this gives us a focus for our next drawing, or maybe even a focus for what we're about to do next. This next point is finish it anyway, because there are things we learn in the second half of a drawing that we can't learn in the first half because they don't need doing until the second half. And if I see myself as learning to draw, then I don't expect all of my skills to be developed. I'm not thinking that this is going to be an artwork. I'm thinking this is a learning exercise. This is a learning experience. And just because I can see that I've got one thing wrong, it doesn't mean I can't continue to learn the things that you learn in the second half of the drawing. And they're particularly things like how we pull the values together, how we finish the marks, if you like, around the periphery of our scene more, which can be drawn very differently to the focal point ones, and so forth. And if we often abandon drawings halfway through for whatever reason, poor time planning, lack of interest, or making mistakes, we can never be learning these end of drawing skills that we need, and which I find in many ways are the most satisfying. I find that it's the second half of the drawing that I really enjoy, where I can really pull things together, where I have a confidence. So it's not just technical things we're missing in the second half, but it's the whole sense of rhythm in our drawing, of confidence with our mark making, because we're warmed up and we have now a lot of things already drawn that we can reference with. So we can position our lines and marks that we're still doing far more easily, far more accurately, and therefore in a far more satisfactory way. So let's not lose the chance to continue to develop those second half skills in the same measure as we're developing the first half skills. This one is assuming that with my half-finished drawing that I'm going to abandon, I've given up on it. So for whatever reason, I've got nothing to lose. Well, now is the time to use this as a basis for experimenting in drawing in a way that I don't normally draw. To be incredibly gestural, to perhaps use a lot of hatching, to perhaps finish it in outline and try splashing some ink on it, or even some color. It's not that I'm trying to produce an artwork, because let's face it, there's something fundamentally wrong with it, which is quite possibly why I haven't continued to draw it. But it doesn't mean I can't use this to explore my marks and my process and my technique and even the media that I use in some sort of, if you like, aggressively experimental way. I think best something that I've been thinking that I would like to try, but for some reason I feel timid about doing it. I'm scared about the result of work that I've done, or that in some way I'm going to mess up or ruin the artwork that I try this in. Well, in a sense, I've already done that. So let me see how it looks to just try and do whatever I'm thinking of. It could be that I experiment drawing much faster, much more gesturally, but whatever it is, the fact that I've not wanted to continue my drawing for the original reasons means I can use it to have fun, to experiment with in some way. and still walk away with a positive experience of a drawing session in my mind rather than some sense of failure or that I wasted my time. Whether this next one is a good thing to do depends a bit on why you're giving up, but if you've made errors that you think have just accumulated, or maybe there's just one or two errors where you've got perspective angles wrong, or you've put some detail in the wrong place, you've joined the lines up between the windows rather than from one side of the window to the other, whatever it is, why not now use this drawing as a way of exploring the possibilities of correcting errors? Now, I'm presuming we're drawing in ink, otherwise we could just use an eraser to get rid of our error and push on. But there are many things we can do to lessen the visual impact of lines that aren't in the right place, marks that didn't go where we wanted them to, where the effect that we've created with our particular mark technique in a certain part was disappointing or worse. And that means I have the opportunity now to work out, what can I add? How can I go over the top? How can I adjust what's around it? Maybe I could just put a line in the right place and maybe the wrong line won't look so obvious. But whatever it is, I can certainly explore the possibilities, the options of trying to minimize the impact. It may be simply that I work a bit harder at creating some sort of focal point away from the error so that that's not where we're looking. And the part that we're looking at looks fine. And the rest of it just gets not lost, but swept up in the rest of the detail around it. But whatever we try and do, we have this great chance to explore, how can I make changes to what I thought I was going to do or draw to overcome this, let's just say, weakness that I've introduced into my drawing. Because this is a skill. Can I say, this is a skill that I'm surprised how far we can develop it. Because it's not as if all of my lines or marks go into the right place. But I've learned that for almost all of them, there are things I can do to make it well worth continuing the drawing. And most people wouldn't see that I'd put some sort of problem onto the page because it doesn't seem to be there at the end. And you only get practice at doing this when you make a mistake. So take every opportunity. This next point really could be done in conjunction with some of the others. But if the error is one that, rather than trying to massage it with some other marks and lines around it or in other parts of our scene to make it look better or to at least draw attention elsewhere, if we feel that what we've done is irreparable, then the very least we should do is to work at drawing the correct lines over our error. We're not doing it to try and salvage the drawing. We're not doing it to complete the drawing, but we're doing it so we get to feel if that was the wrong mark or line to place in some way, the angle, the weight, the thickness, the evenness or the unevenness of the line, whatever. Maybe we're aware that it was awkward with our arm for some reason when we were drawing it, that at least straight away work out, what does the right mark look like, and put that there. Because in doing that, we learn how to draw the correct mark from the reference for that drawing, for that part of the drawing in that way. We learn what the better arm movement feels like. We learn that, as I learned recently, if I move the lamp, which I need to video the drawing, for some lines, it gives me much more accuracy because I'm not having to contort and twist my arm to accommodate the light. Sometimes part of the reason why we make the same sort of mistake over and over again is because we've got very used to what it feels like to do the wrong movement or make the mark in the wrong way or to estimate something incorrectly. And we've done it so incorrectly, so consistently, that it's become our habit. And because it feels natural, that may be the reason why we're still surprised every time when it doesn't look right. The problem is what we've come to feel is natural, because it's what we do most commonly, is actually not correct. And we need to attach that feeling to doing the correct movements. And the easiest way to work out where the more correct lines will be, the more helpful lines will be, is to put them over our existing drawing. Because the lines that are in the wrong place, once we've critiqued and we've worked out why are these lines in the wrong place, are they too high, too low, too straight, does it bend, whatever. When we put the correct line in, we can now reference the incorrect one. So it just gives us that slight advantage now in getting the correct line, whatever, in place. And that means we've got more chance of starting to build the memory, the associations, the technique, the arm movements of drawing more helpful lines and marks. And if you're finding these points helpful, please hit the like button for me and help me out as well. But my final point is, well, perhaps it's not so bad. Perhaps it's not the disaster you think. Perhaps you've managed to develop a heightened sense of this has to be so right and it's ruined if it's not, that you can actually use the rest of this drawing session to complete the drawing anyway, and to complete it as best as can be done with the original mindset and aims and techniques, and possibly learn that the fear that we have that we've ruined it is way overblown, that our response to what we thought had gone so wrong really was an exaggerated one, that in all sorts of ways we can overcome and improve, or just continue the drawing as we planned and discover that what I thought was going to ruin it really is a non-issue at the end. These are important things to learn, and if we don't complete our drawing, we can't learn them. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. Look, I hope these thoughts have given some sense of ways of using a drawing session that we have felt has been unproductive, where we've messed it up, where it's easy to walk away feeling discouraged and wonder, why am I doing this? And to not just push through that way of thinking, those mindsets, but rather use them to develop our drawing skills more, to develop the skills that we can only develop either in that situation or from that point of the drawing process on. In many ways, the drawing process is not as agonizingly fragile as we can feel it is, even when we draw directly in ink. The finished drawing is often a more robust experience than perhaps we anticipate. It can take a lot more manhandling through whatever time it takes us to draw it and still look okay at the end than we might think. So my encouragement is to persevere with it for one of these reasons or any reason at all. But look, whatever you're drawing, at whatever stage it's in, at whatever stage you leave it, or however it ends up, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.